Kia ora team, welcome along to this week's group coaching call. Today I'm covering the topic of how to warm up for any event. Now, depending on what type of event you are doing, the recommendation for what type of warm up you do is going to be different. And also within that event, what sort of goals you have will also determine the level of warm up you go to. But first of all, let's have a look at what we will be covering tonight. The warm up is one of the most overlooked performance tools in endurance sport. You can get a flash new bike or you can get flash new shoes, but they won't make as much performance gains in a single event as doing a quality warm up for that event. So, initially tonight, we're going to look at why warm ups matter, what a good warm up actually does for your body, the universal warm up framework, then how long should your warm up be, and then we're going to look at different warm up options for different types of events. So, firstly, who's that handsome young man there grinding up a big hill? Anyone recognize him? I think actually everyone in this call tonight should recognize the hill even. So, yeah, I can't remember the name of the road at the top, what it rhymed with. I do remember very well. Anyway, why warm ups matter? It raises the heart rate as well as your breathing. It increases blood flow. It activates the neuromuscular system. It also helps settle your nerves before the start of an event, and it allows you to hit that intended pace sooner. So using Stu as the example there in the team section in Challenge Wanaka, he was straight out of the transition area after the swimmer had tagged him, and literally 150 meters later, he was turning left and climbing straight up that hill. A good warm up would have seen his heart rate and his breathing already settled into the intensity he was going to be riding at. It was going to increase the blood flow, particularly to the working muscles, primarily the quads and the glutes for the cycling, as well as getting the neuromuscular signaling from the brain through to the muscles that need to be worked, as well as it would have given him a good chance to just be ready for everything that hill can throw at you. The downside with an event like Challenge Wanaka, it's not necessarily practical to get a reasonable warm up in terms of having to have the bikes racked in there already. So no slight on the fact that Stu probably didn't get a good warm up for that. It's just the practicalities of that event. But if he'd got the opportunity to, he would have received a fantastic benefit. Unlike the likes of Tanya and Jess, who got a good 1.9 kilometre swim to warm up, and I'll use warm up loosely based on the water temperature. But the thing is, the key part of having that leading into it is the heart rate would have already increased, breathing rate would have been adapted to the exercise that was occurring, blood flow not necessarily going to the cycling muscles, but because the heart rate was elevated, that blood was being shunted around the body effectively. What does a good warm up actually do for your body? Very similar to the previous slide, we're looking at increasing the muscular temperature because then those muscles can contract more effectively. Having the blood flow to those muscles already is taking that heat, warming them up, as well as biomechanically and biochemically doing a whole range of things inside the muscle to increase that the temperature of the muscle to make everything work smoothly and efficiently. We're getting the oxygen delivery, we're getting better. I often talk, particularly in the velocity classes, about improving our aerobic efficiency, our ability to get oxygen out of the air and delivered to those working muscles. The warm up starts that process and gets that sequence happening so that when you hit some form of intensity in the event, you are ready for that. The body's energy systems are adapted and ready to produce that energy. We're talking the aerobic system, we're talking the various anaerobic systems, whether it's utilizing lactic acid or not. So the three main energy systems, or even the aerobic system, we can split into two and have one that's oxidizing either fat or the other one oxidizing carbohydrates. They're all primed and ready to produce that energy in the best shape or the best sequence, depending on which energy system we're using. As I sort of touched on, we're activating that nervous system so the brain is sending correct signals but also sending them efficiently and the muscles are responding appropriately. Improves coordination and movement efficiency. Although we will talk about triathlons later on, warming up for a cycle race by going for a swim is probably not the most effective way to get prepared, but incorporating different aspects of what you're doing in the event is going to be a benefit to you. Touched on the fact that we talked about the energy systems. The cardiovascular system is also ready for that sustained effort. And we're also preparing the body by getting that extra oxygen delivered. So we're avoiding oxygen deficit at the start, especially in the shorter events where the intensity is a lot higher right at the start compared to longer duration events. So the universal framework for a warm-up, we have three key phases, and we don't necessarily need to use all phases, but I do recommend them depending on the goals. So initially we want an aerobic phase, similar to what we do in a normal workout, a minimum of 10 minutes at level 2, just getting the body adapt to the process that we're working through, whether we're cycling, whether we're swimming, whether we're running, whether we're kayaking. Then go through a phase of short increased efforts, if appropriate, for either A, the event, or B, your goals. And then after we've done that part of the warm-up, going through a number of mobilities to stay warm until the race or the event starts. Usually got activities such as race briefings, etc. to listen to, but there also might be wave starts, and so your start might not be immediately at the start of the event. There could be a delay for a scheduled amount of time, or if it's a track and field meet, it might not necessarily be at a scheduled time, but just following the sequence of events for the meet. How long should your warm-up be? For recreational events where your goal is just to finish the event, 10 to 15 minutes is going to suffice in most instances. Those with more competitive goals, 15 to 30 minutes is going to be more optimal, so you're more ready to go. If you're looking at different duration events, longer events, the warm-up is going to be of shorter duration, lower intensity. There's no point going out including level 5 efforts in your warm-up if you are trying to warm up for a half Ironman or an Ironman 70.3, where the event has the event duration is in the number of hours and there's no intentions of getting your heart rate up to level 5 at any point during the event. Conversely, shorter events, you're going to want a longer duration warm-up and have some of that higher intensity included, especially if you're going to look at spending a portion of the event at that higher intensity. So specifically, if we're looking at warming up for a 5K race, including park runs, those with recreational goals, just sort of a 10 to 15 minute jog at level 2 before the event is going to suffice. Whereas if you've got a bit more competitive drive and are wanting to place or perform well, and that could be well compared to your previous performances. So if you're looking to PB, then I really encourage you to spend at least 10 minutes warming up at level 2 and then include some higher intensity efforts, at least 3 by 60 seconds at level 4 with short 30-second rest interval between or after each rep. So you've got that, well, the heart and the whole body as a general has been exposed to that higher intensity, small amount of lactic acid's being produced, but you're also clearing that quickly so that when you're standing on the start line good to go, your heart will have dropped down, but it's prepared and has already been exposed to that higher intensity. If you're looking at a half marathon or a marathon, particularly around recreational goals, you're going to be out there running for a number of hours. The large portion of it for recreational runners is going to be run at level 2. So you could even have 0 minutes, as I've got on the screen there, 0 to 15 minutes jogging at level 2. If you're going to use the 0 minutes, I recommend spending the first 10 to 15 minutes, the first few kilometers, building in, getting used to running as you build into the event. For those with more competitive goals, a good sound warm-up, similar to the park run, 10 minutes at level 2, 3 by 60 seconds at level 4 with those 30-second rest intervals again, and then working through some mobility, staying warm whilst waiting for the start. If you're looking at a warm-up for a sprint or Olympic triathlon, those with recreational goals encourage you to get in the water, get acclimatized to the water temperature and used to what it feels like breathing in that water temperature. It's 10 to 15 minutes, and then you will be exposed and acclimatized to that. So it comes race start, as long as you're not trying to sprint out of the blocks, you're going to be good to go. If you are a bit more competitive and wanting to sprint out of the blocks, I'd recommend a good 10-minute jog at level 2, then transition, go through a little bit of a bike ride for 10 minutes, rack your bike, get everything set up, and then get into the lake, the ocean, whatever the swimming venue is for, once again, 10 minutes at level 2 and include some of that higher intensity work. Once again, 3 by 60 seconds is a good amount of time. Subject to the availability of the course, you might be able to warm up in an area off to the side, particularly if there's a number of wave starts at the event. For a long course triathlon, once again, if we're looking at recreational goals, 0 to 15 minutes of swimming. If you are looking to not bother with a warm up or unavailable, try and keep the first sort of 10-15 minutes of the event at that lower intensity, so you're still building into it, using that time as your warm up. For those with more competitive goals, similar warm up where you're getting exposed, the aerobic energy system is starting to get brought into play with a 10-minute jog. If you're able to get your bike from T1, including a 10-minute ride, and then getting into the water, getting acclimatized to that water temperature, a further 10 minutes of swimming, and 3 by 60 seconds, level 3 this time, not level 4, because it is a longer duration event that we're not going to be trying to tax that top end so much. If you're looking at a cycle event or a mountain bike race, similar sort of deal. Recreational goals, 10 to 15 minutes, spending that time getting that aerobic system ready. Everyone's aware that cycle races will start off with a hiss and a roar. Everyone's mind is getting in a good bunch, etc., having that breathing built in. So I don't recommend 0 minutes like I often do for the running or for triathlons. If you've got more competitive goals, then getting that sound warm-up, exposure to level 4 is going to be very beneficial for that. And that applies for road as well as mountain biking. If you're looking at track cycling events, that's going to be a totally different kettle of fish depending on the type of event you're doing. And gravel races, the standard there for cycling applies for them as well. Any questions on warm-ups? As always, we'll go around the room. I was going to say we'll start with Jason, but Jason put his hand up and we'll just work through the sequence that you laid out on my screen. Go for it, Jason.
I may have missed it, but how far in advance of the event would you recommend, I guess, these warm-ups being done?
So ultimately, for a 15-minute warm-up, you want to start 15 minutes before your race time so that you can literally slot into the start line, good to go. No time to get to cool down, no time for anything to happen. The reality is, race briefings, different wave starts, having to be corralled into the start line, they all play into delaying that leading into it. So spending time on the start line, staying limber, doing leg swings if you've got space around you, crammed into a mass marathon or a half marathon with plenty of people around you on a fenced in to the corral, it's not going to be realistic. But jogging on the spot, bouncing, doing some calf activations, those sort of things are realistic in those circumstances to keep the blood flowing, keep moving. So, and I'm thinking ahead to an event like the Christchurch Half Marathon that someone or a couple of people in the call might be doing. That is usually squeezed in quite tight. Jess, you might be a bit more lucky with the national champs having a start area right in the front where you've got a little bit more room compared to some of the amateur athletes behind you. They will have less room available, and trying to get into that corralled area can sometimes be a challenge as well. I remember one year it was the Christchurch Marathon rather than the half marathon. It was, yeah, crammed in extra tight, and there were a number of issues. Those issues I don't believe have occurred since then. But then when you contrast it to something like Challenge Wanaka that I know you're all familiar with, the opportunity to do that style of warm up that I recommend wasn't necessarily practical as well. But getting a jog for 10 minutes before putting on your wetsuit was realistic for those with higher competitive goals. Putting your wetsuit on, you don't want to be too sweaty from that 10-minute jog, so it's all low intensity. Get the wetsuit on, find an area off to the side, get in the water, 10 minutes swimming, doing some accelerations, picking that pace up, coming back out of the water, listening to the race brief, singing the national anthem, and then making your way into that corralled area over the timing chip so they know you're in the water, and then moving out. There's still going to be 10, 15 minutes, depending on your wave start, prior to or from finishing the warm up, prior to actually standing in the water between the two buoys, ready to go. It will vary. To answer your question, Jason, it will vary from event to event. But the key thing is to make it realistic based on the limitations and the restrictions that the event organisers put on you, and being adaptable so you can adjust that, so you can start a little bit earlier so you get time to fully do that.
Well, I guess the converse of that question is how early is too early.
Yeah, the more time you spend standing around doing nothing, the more cool you'll cool down, and then the effectiveness of the warm up will slowly dissipate. It's not going to be something that happens immediately. So if you've got, particularly for an event like Ironman 70.3 or Challenge Wanaka, those bigger events, you've got more constraints to work around. So you might look at finishing that swim part portion of the warm up 20, 30 minutes before you're actually due to start. Ironman 70.3 is a little bit different because you've got the opportunity, you effectively queue for the start line, and it's a rolling start, and your timing chip starts as you go into the water. Whereas Challenge Wanaka, the opposite happens. All your wave all enter the water over the timing chip, line up between the two buoys, and then start. So Ironman similar to that, as opposed to Ironman 70.3, which is slightly different. A large marathon or half marathon, you're going to have to be there to be on the start line. And when I say be on the start line, you might be 100 meters back from the physical start line, queued up, ready to go.
Thank you.
Stu, your next cab off the rank.
Yeah, I was just because obviously I've only just managed to get your screen up, but you're talking about the start at Wanaka, and that was my concern because obviously you're cold. So I'm just looking there, and I was very mindful of the fact that that was a hill. So I can see here that I was climbing it at 90 RPM, and my heart rate I managed to keep to about 140. It
Yeah.
went ballistic after that, but that first initial climb was all about just trying to warm up and not blow myself to smithereens, which could be quite easy, which is what happened on the next hill when I climbed out of Wanaka, because that's when my heart went to 160.
Yeah. So you managed that well by the sounds of it. And yeah, well done. Tanya.
Yeah, I guess it's not really a question, but for me, I worry that warming up for a park run will knacker me so much I won't be able to do the park run.
That's something over the last couple of days I actually was planning to include in the slides, and I didn't. So thanks for bringing that up. Because and 80% of recreational athletes, that is one of their biggest concerns,
Mm.
being too tired from the warm up. If you're running a park run and you're not the fastest person, you might be looking at a 30 to 35-minute park run. I know, Tanya, you are faster than that. A 30 to 35-minute park run is typically someone that is not ultra competitive. So that's why I'm recommending sort of the 10 to
Mm,
15 minute jogging at
mm,
level two. We're getting that heart rate elevated, we're getting the breathing rate elevated as well. It's not necessarily taking it to race intensity, but it's starting the process, warming up the muscles, getting everything starting to get ready. Now, at the other end of the spectrum, the sub 20-minute park runners, they are putting things on the line. They are pushing their body to the limit, both aerobically as well as intensity wise. That becomes very important. Now, if you're running a sub 20-minute park run, you've got the ability to run a lot longer than 20 minutes based on your level of aerobic fitness. Your VO2 max for someone running that fast is going to be relatively high compared to other people in their age group. They're going to have the aerobic capacity to run a lot longer duration. So having that 15-minute warm up, including those 3 by 60 second efforts at level four, isn't going to leave them absolutely knackered.
mm.
It's going to start taxing the system, but that's the whole point of the warm up. So you're exposing the body to that intensity that's going to come and give it short, small, controlled doses of it so that you can make sure that your body's ready.
Mm, yeah, cool. No, I might actually try it. I might see, because my first kilometer in the park run is usually my slowest. And I just
Yep.
get faster and faster, and that'll be my body warming up. And this old girl takes a bit longer to warm up these days. So,
Yep.
yeah. So, I mean, I like I'm quite competitive in my age group,
Yep.
but I've never been able to hit my PB again. Yeah, so it would be nice to see if I could try and maybe get back to somewhere around that if I warmed up a bit more and could hit that first K a bit
Yeah.
faster.
Absolutely. Now, just because you using that first kilometer and as your warm up, it's not necessarily 1 kilometer is not necessarily going to be a complete warm up. That's you're knocking the first kilometer out and still comfortably under 6 minutes. We
Mm,
can double that and we're still getting a partial warm up, which
yeah,
means we can nearly be halfway through the event and you still haven't warmed up.
warmed up. Yeah.
So bear in mind that you can still start conservatively after a good warm up and
Mm,
continue to build through it. So it
hmm
might be that you look at, and I need to check some of your stats, and particularly from the parkrun progress report I did a while back for you,
mm,
and have a look and see if starting at 5 minutes flat might be a suitable start point, and then go aim to hold that 5 minutes for the first
mm,
couple, and then go 450, and then try and
mm.
do a 445 and then a 430 something to round it out. It'll give you the little bit more leeway, but you can
Yeah.
still negative split. In
Yeah.
fact, you're more likely to negative split with a sound warm up.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Are you doing parkrun this weekend?
No, no, I'm not because I'm focused on the backyard ultra. So I'm kind of doing
Yep.
different things at the moment. So yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah.
It's something I didn't cover, but the backyard ultra, you're going to be out there running at level two, holding it consistent. You're not going to be out there trying to run
No.
level four threshold,
No.
get
No,
back as
I'm
quick
not.
as you can. Although there's an advantage to that strategy.
Yeah,
Uh,
being in sleep.
yes,
Yeah.
I do recommend you hold relatively conservatively because the accumulation of
Yeah.
duration and fatigue, if you
Yeah.
start having those higher intensities, you will start burning, or not start, you will be burning matches each time you are at that higher intensity.
Mm,
So having that long duration level two, just keep that all day long,
mm,
depending on the number of laps your goal is.
yeah.
The exception being is if your lap or if your goal is 1 lap and to be first back and first DNF, then you can run that as fast as
As
you want,
fast as you
and then you better have
can.
a good warm up.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
You're welcome. Jess,
Well, that pretty much my question was just answered because I was just going to ask because before most of like my half marathons, when I do like the 20-minute warm up, I always get like looks that it's like I'm kind of just running for like too long, or people will make comments that I'm warming up for a long time. So it was kind of like asking that same thing of like, when is it too much? You know what I
Too,
mean?
yeah, when is it too much? The answer to that is when it's fatiguing and has a negative impact on your performance. We just need to look at your goals and your results compared to the people that are looking sideways at you and saying you're doing too much before the race, to know that they are finishing a long way behind you and their goals are significantly different from your goals.
Yeah, I guess it's nice to hear why, because then when I would answer, I'd just be like, I don't
As my
know.
coach says.
Yeah, I just do what I'm told. I'm sorry.
And you
Yeah.
are very good at following the plan.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll get stressed otherwise if I don't.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Anything else there, Jess?
No.
All right. As always, we'll open it back up, go around the room in the same order for any questions unrelated to this, or if something else has popped up as a result of this. Jason, Stu,
Yeah, I was just more so for velocity, because like when we start velocity, the sessions in the warm up, which is the most important bit, you always get us
cool
spinning
down's the
between
most
90.
important part, Stu.
Well, okay, cool down's nice, but you know what I mean. Like the warm up, you always have us at like 90 to 100 RPM straight out of the gate spinning.
Yep.
And I'm wondering why that is, where we don't sort of start for, say, the first minute and a half, 2 minutes at sort of 70 to 80 or 60 to
So,
70, and then the next minute it builds up. So that then you build your legs into it instead of just at 6 o'clock in the morning, bang, you've got to be spinning your little backside off.
okay. So it comes down to the force production in the muscles. To do whatever the power number is irrelevant. But as long as, if we look at two cyclists or not, if we look at the same cyclist, we look at you riding, and we'll say your level two intensity is what, 180 watts, give or take, round figures, 180 watts, and you're
Yep,
doing that at 90 RPMs. If you've
yep.
got 180 watts at 50 RPMs, the 50 RPMs, you're going to require a greater amount of force in the muscles and the legs to turn the pedals. That is a higher intensity because you're using more force. So by
Yeah, okay.
having that higher cadence, we're using a lower force, so therefore it is lower intensity.
All right, okay. Yeah, I get that. I was just meaning like more so the getting the legs actually turning. Like when you go for your Sunday ride, you don't go straight out of the gates at 90 RPM
You
spinning.
should spin to win all day, every day, Stu.
I kind of agree. I try and get on my bike before the class starts so that I can do, 3 to 5 minutes just like spinning at my own kind of whatever it might be, but I'm still
Yeah.
spinning. But yeah, rather than I find that if I do hit the class like as soon as we go, I struggle a wee bit. So for me, it just works better if I can get there a bit earlier,
Yeah.
even though I know
And
the warm up is spinning.
yeah. No, I encourage you as soon as you log in, and especially if I'm obviously I've got to get off my bike again and then press the start button. I need to get the keyboard a little bit closer so I can do that without getting off the bike. But that's a different world of problems at my end. I'll try and get on and ride as well, but I'm also trying to spin, keep that cadence high, so everything, the force of contraction within the muscle fibers is nice and low during that, and I'll say pre-warm up phase.
Is it true that we've got a ramp test on Tuesday morning?
Have you looked at velocity?
I looked at velocity and I saw this thing in there that said there's a ramp test on Tuesday morning, and I actually had what is it, PTSD come back. I
Yep.
started shaking.
You might recall 6 weeks ago, I told everyone in 6 weeks' time, we're doing this again.
Jog
Well,
ate my
actually, it's
homework.
5.5 weeks ago at the moment. But by the time Tuesday morning rolls around, it would have been 6 weeks ago. That way, everyone's FTP is up to date regularly, and then there's no one, me looking over their data going, oh, we can up this because I know a couple of people that don't like it when I do that.
Well, it's only because it makes it difficult to turn the pedals.
Because you're not used to it at that up step up. Anyway, anything else, Stu? Tanya, have you had a power cut? The lights seem to have gone
Yeah,
out behind
well,
you.
I'm in the North Island, so it's getting dark here.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I was
Um,
thinking the South Island cut the power cable
yeah,
and
yeah,
let
no,
you drift
Jess is
away.
probably sitting still in daylight, are you, down there?
Well, we've got daylight out the window, haven't we, Stu?
Yeah, it's like
Pull your
dark.
curtains and show her.
I'm sitting in the dark, but turning the light on ain't great. So you just have to put up with it. No,
Look
look,
at that. Look at that, Tanya.
oh
Stu's
God,
curtains.
that's terrible. Yeah, it's dark. Excuse me. No, the only thing, Ray, from your little guideline that you gave us before Challenge Wanaka, I did something for the first time ever. And that was when I swim in those events, I'm pretty lazy with my kicking. I don't kick
Yep,
very much at all. But your advice was to warm the legs up, kind of the last 5 to 10 minutes of the swim, start kicking.
yep.
And I found that enormously helpful. Like my bike time wasn't flash, but for even getting out of the water and getting up the bank and into the. So, you talk about warming up and, on a bike or pre-swim, but between the different, transitions
Uh,
to get yourself ready for the next thing that you're doing in a triathlon is actually really important as well. And that worked really well for me.
Absolutely. And you're right. Swimming, you're lying horizontal. Perfect world. You're horizontal the entire swim. You don't stick your head up and look to see where you're going. You don't tread water, preferably. And the focus is getting the blood delivery to the arm muscles who are doing the bulk of the propulsion. They The legs can provide sort of 15 to 30% of propulsion with swimming, depending on your type of technique you have. So if you're at the 15% end of the range and increase the amount of kicking as you're leading into the transition or the end of the swim, boosting the amount of kicking you're doing, pushing that up to 30, and getting a lot more blood flow into those legs so that when it comes time for the legs to respond by running or jogging into the transition area, there's a level of blood already in the muscles that can support the
Mm,
new pattern of movement that you're now forcing the body to go through.
mm,
Especially if the transition area is a nice short one, you're then out on the bike in a short space of time. And now we've got another group of muscles, still lower limb muscles, taking over the bulk of the propulsion. So having that ability to transition the blood flow from the swimming muscles into the muscles for running, even though it's a short distance, and then transitioning again the blood flow from those running muscles into the cycling muscles. Now that
mm.
happens sort of naturally when you stop running and peel your wetsuit off and put your helmet on and start preparing the bike. Um, but it still needs to occur. It's not
Yep,
like you go from swimming straight into running. That bit happens like that.
yeah,
Whereas the running to the cycling and sorry, the running in the transition area, then leading into the cycling, you're pausing slightly between, allowing that blood to transition. The same occurs at the end of the bike. If you can spin the legs a little bit more, you find that people with a higher cadence, i.e., sort of 90 plus, when they get off the bike and start running, their leg turnover is at that higher speed as well, 180 strides per minute, as opposed to RPMs, it's SPMs, and it's effectively double
yep,
because cadence, we're counting one revolution and the legs are in fixed position. Running, we're counting with each stride, so the cadence effectively gets doubled. So if you turn having that leg turnover nice and high at 180 strides per minute going out of transition area, and does your chorus track that data, Jess? Your stride rate? I don't think it does it?
It does my stride lengths. So
Yeah, there might be
maybe.
some data there in Training Peaks that we can probably have a look at, but that's a
Yeah.
whole nother topic. And I know Gareth will have that data. I'll have that data. Jess might have that data. It might make an interesting topic for next time. So much so, I'm going to write it down.
Like I'd say, Ray, that information or that bit of paper you gave us at the start at Wanaka this time, where we actually sat down and started writing through the game plan of why we're there and what we're there and how we're going to do things and that like that should be. I'd give you an 11 out of 10 for that. I honestly think that all of your athletes should be sent that before any of the events that they're going to do, simply because I think it made me consciously think, and that's why I don't think I cramped off the bike, was because I'm going to do this from here to here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And because you've written it down, I think it sort of helps nail it into the memory banks about how you're going to do things. And if you have a problem, how you're going to overcome that problem. Because I saw multiple people off the bikes with mechanicals and bits like that, and it looked like their whole world had fallen to pieces. But yeah, I think just that writing things down and making you actually think about the event and how you're going to do things makes all the difference. So yeah, I'd say yeah, well done on that because I definitely benefited from that.
Absolutely, and that's the whole point of it. I'll come back to that because we're sort of moving away from Tanya's question. It's the transition of the blood flow from the swimming to the running muscles, and then you've got a little bit more time as you pause for the running muscles to then transition the blood flow into the cycling muscles. Coming back off the bike, going through T2, you're basically off the bike, and then you're into whether it's walking, fast walking, jogging, or running with the bike to where you're racking it, quick change of the shoes, and then you're out. Uh, the transition, it's more of a flowing movement because you're not necessarily stopping to do as much as you are in T1. So that it's a whole nother transition. But as you say, the self-psych form helped prepare you for that. The pacing document with some recommendations and suggestions, that's where those tips sort of came out from. So yeah. And as you said, Stu, the writing it down is the key part of it. You can read the document and just in your mind say the answer, but it doesn't cement it in the mind as much as taking the sort of the 20 to 30 minutes and a bit of quiet space the night before, 2 nights before, to physically write those answers in. It makes you consider it a bit more. It cements it in your mind so that your race plan gets developed through the document, and then all the what if scenarios. And it's not every last thing that could possibly go wrong, because an Ironman in the weekend, unfortunately, something did go wrong for one of my athletes that was not even considered in that document. But part of the considerations, you can take the concept of what your pathway forward, if what if number 5 happens, then you can extrapolate that and go, well, it's not quite the same, but it's similar. And I know that with that, and often you won't think through that process. It'll just be like, oh, this has happened. I can rectify it by doing A, B, and C. And then you just start doing A, B, and C, as opposed to having your whole world unfold like you suggested happen to people. And I've seen it happen to many people myself, that things don't go right. And they've spent 12 months training for this one major event, and they weren't prepared for this thing that's happened. They weren't prepared for the water to be so cold. They weren't prepared for the hills and the Alps to have a fresh dusting of snow. They weren't prepared for the air temperature to be so cold. They weren't prepared to start losing core temperature out on the road while cycling due to the wind chill. But if they'd mapped through the self-psych form, it's like, what are you going to do if it's cold? I'm going to have a jacket in the transition area, and I'm going to stay a little bit warmer. And I forget the name. It was one of the European pros or American pros that had come over from a lot warmer climate. They were not expecting the temperature to be so cold. They wore a non-sponsor's jacket that I'd argue was almost parachute-like on their body. It was not as aerodynamic as the tri-suit they were wearing underneath it, but they got through the cycle staying warm and then were able to go out on the run and run well. They may have finished the bike shivering cold because they didn't put a jacket on, and then they might not have been able to run at all. They might have succumbed to hypothermia on the bike because of the wind chill, and that would have been a whole different outcome for their race. So there's a whole raft of possibilities that effectively get covered by the dozen or so options within the document. Anything else from you, Tanya? Anything from you, Jess?
It's not really a question, but sorry, my voice just squeaked. Um, but I said I thought I'd say what I tried today. Today on my bike ride, I tried the multi-dextrin powder, which is like the pure carb powder. Because when I'm like training, I get really sick of the really sweet um gels and stuff. But which I mean I'll still use, or I get sick of how many I have to eat. But so I thought I'd try it. Obviously, I didn't want to try it for Wanaka because you don't try new things on race day. But I've never had so many carbs in one bottle, and I think it like was very successful because then my run off the bike, you'll look at it and you'll go, "Why'd you go so fast?" Oops.
Okay.
But
I'll look forward to having a look at that a little bit later
well,
on. But
it wasn't like super fast, but then I just like kept kind of getting faster. But it was like so that was a win. So if anyone wants to
nice.
try the
Mm,
multi-dextrin powder for some carbs, I'd suggest it. I think Jade half suggested it to me at one point as well. So that was good.
yeah.
The other thing I was going to say is my watch has like died on me, so I'm going to have to get a new one, I think. I don't know why. I've had it for less than a year and my old one lasted for like 5 years or like 3 years. That was a bit much, but it like dies within a day where it used to die within like 2 weeks. I don't know why. And then all the
Uh,
data had been kind of going off as well, which we
yeah.
knew.
The
So,
the power data's been out for a little bit. Um,
and
yeah, it sounds like there's a faulty battery. Um,
yeah.
send them an email and see what they'll do about it. But obviously, there's a range of options out there for other brands.
No, I might have to turn into a Garmin girl. Oh,
Nothing wrong with Garmin.
I've just tried to be a real good supporter of Coros, okay?
Oh, they
I've
make quality
tried.
products.
They
So,
do, and it's kind of more affordable for me, but
yeah.
I'll give them an email and see if they can give me a free one. But they won't probably.
Well, no, if you send them an email, like literally, what do you reckon? It's less than 12 months. I know with Garmin, if you got a hold of Garmin, they would either replace it or they would sell you a reconned one at a very, very discounted price.
Okay. Well, I mean, it doesn't hurt to send them an email, I guess.
No, it takes 5 minutes.
Yeah.
What was I going to say?
That was more of me just blabbing. I'm sorry.
In terms of multidextrins, at the end of the day, whatever form of carbohydrates you take into your body, it's your body will break it down into pure glucose that goes into the bloodstream as blood glucose. It will then get stored as glycogen. Multidextrin, as you've sort of commented, you can tolerate a lot higher concentration of that because it's not as sweet as having a glucose-based drink. So there's pros and cons to different things, and people respond differently to the different products. So that multidextrin, your body will still need to break it down, eventually breaking it down to pure glucose. That is then will ship it into the bloodstream to move around the body, and then it's stored as glycogen. So even though you're getting more carbs in, it's going to take a little bit longer to break it down. So there's pros and cons. If it's working, we'll keep using it.
Yeah, because I feel like it also helps because then it forces me to drink my water, which I would always not drink. So it's like a double win there as
Nice.
well. That's
Does it
good
just
from
straight
me.
multi-dextrin, Jess?
Yeah, so like, and it's cheap. So student budget was like $3.50 for this, but I'll grab the box for you. Get a bit excited. It's got nothing in it but the powder. And I just got it from the supermarket. And it's literally got just carbs, like
Yep.
and sugar.
And
That's
they
So
it.
how
haven't
much
changed
is
the
that?
box since the 90s.
It's got
And
for like
Did you
how
buy
much
it?
do you put in a bottle?
um or apparently 100 grams is 91 grams of carbs. I think I was putting like 40 grams in a bottle plus an electrolyte sachet. So there's like 70 grams in a bottle because I didn't want to go too much too fast and that felt fine. But like it's just white powder. It kind of feels like I'm doing drugs, to be honest. But yeah. And
I,
it's
I,
cheap. So
I won't name names, but let's just say at the time in the mid 90s, he wasn't a pro level athlete, but then he went on to become a pro level athlete, has been stopped at the border with bags of that and had to explain away the product.
yeah, it
Make
doesn't
sure
look
you
great,
take it
but
in packaging if you are crossing a border.
yeah. Okay.
Now, out of interest, Jess, did you buy that from City Centre New World?
The Garden New World.
Oh, okay. I possibly bought it from Gardens New World when I was a student in Dunedin as well. Same packaging. I did
Yep.
most of my shopping at City Centre, but there was time where I lived literally over the road from Gardens, so
Yeah,
possibly I don't specifically recall buying it there, but I'm sure I probably did.
What's it worth?
probably. It was like $3.50 for 400 grams. I
It's
think.
cheap as chips, Stu.
It's
Yeah,
cheap. I might have to have a
yeah,
crack at this.
yeah. I'm telling you, it's like liquid gold. Some people, I feel like if you told like a random recreational person and then that it's just pure carbs, they'd probably look at you sideways that you want to eat so many carbs, but carbs are carbs.
I honestly
Fuel the
think
machine.
this time for Wanaka, I have more carbs than I have ever had in a race. Like, I mean, I had 5 gels, a 90-gram bottle of race fuel, plus my other stuff. You know, like I loaded up on more stuff than and jet planes more than I've ever had, and pickle juice. And I reckon that's why I didn't cramp this time around.
Yeah.
Pickle juice.
So the other end of the price range from you, but it's cheap to make as well. They just get a jar of pickles, drain the pickles out, and then sell the juice to stew at extra high price.
$71 for 12 shots. It's not that bad.
Jess's mind has just exploded at the price.
That's my weekly food shopping.
All right. Anything else? Well, I will let you disappear. I'll let you come up with your excuses as to why you can't make velocity session on Tuesday. And those that don't come up with excuses, I'll see you on Tuesday.
I might just turn up just to. Are you going to be there, Jess?
Yeah. Yeah. I
It's in
guess
her
it'll be my
program. She'll
first.
be there.
I might just turn up just to watch people suffer.
No, I'll do it. Yeah, I'll wake up and do it. I'll be there. Let's do it together, right? It's easier
Yeah.
together.
Look, velocity together. Unfortunately, Jason will have a haircut that day or something like that, and that's why he won't be there.
I haven't adjusted my FTP from last time, Ray. Can I just like not do the RAM test and take what I did last time and just do that?
That's
I think
not
you should
how it
just do
works,
20 minutes
Tanya.
pain.
Oh, really? Oh. I don't think I need a ramp test with my training at the moment.
There is an alternative session if you want.
Mm.
And I've recently recorded it with Andrew, which is the old school FTP test, which takes an hour and 11 minutes, but it has a quality warm up.
Fuck.
It then has a pre-fatiguing stage, and then it has a 20-minute time trial.
That sounds hideous.
Trust me, it is.
See you
That's
on
why the
Tuesday
ramp
morning,
test is the
Tanya.
preferred.
Yeah, Jesus, that's the alternative. I thought you were going to say some cruisy level 2 spin or something with a scenic photography. I don't know. Oh, gee.
And on that, I did film some ride footage this weekend.
Oh,
So,
cool.
yeah, there will be another release at some point of the Lake Canary Scenic Triathlon cycle
Ah,
course.
wow,
And
good.
and by looking at the picture of you in your stunning tri-suit, it looked like you had a camera on your head too, with a one.
Maybe,
But
maybe
but
I did.
can Can I just ask, was your ride time this year faster than last year?
I believe you told me I had to get under a certain time, and I got under that. I listened to Coach Stu.
Oh.
Fantastic, because I tell you what, it was doing my head in when I was going, I went fucking faster than this. That's why I hate doing the scenic try.
Uh, good. We look forward to it.
Sweet. And if you do want to ride the Challenge Wanaka route, it's available in Ver. So get on board and give that a crack. Talk to Gareth about getting a code for a free 28-day trial, I think it is.
Mm.
So options are plenty.
I'll text him now.
Wait until tomorrow. I know what he's got lined up tonight. So wait until tomorrow.
That's a pretty good platform. I have used it and I can vouch for it.
He is online, so it can't be that good a night.
He's probably got his keys going like this and doing some work stuff.
Mm.
So, anyway, I'll leave you to it. Have a great evening, team, and
Okay.
I will look forward to seeing you all
Yep,
bright and
thanks,
early,
Ray.
bushy-tailed on Tuesday.
Fantastic. Rest day tomorrow
Thanks,
for me. I'm going to be
Ray.
prepped for it. See ya.
Yeah, so yeah, bye.
See ya.